This is a story from Type Moon. Who what's Final Fantasy 15 Brotherhood instead? What? Why? Come on, Twitch. I love how fucking Twitch, I start writing the name, and then it's just endlessly loading. I need to say yes, and then try to do it again. This is the story of two witches residing in a mansion upon a hill. Witch of the Holy Night trial. Much like the weather outside, the foyer was overcast with shades of gray. Perhaps by deliberate design, the architect had chosen not to include any lights in the entrance area. The ceiling was 2 floors high. The only light in the room came from the skylight. It was particularly gloomy on rainy days. On moonless nights, it was like the world itself ceased to be. Aoko decided the drawing room to the east would be a good place to rest, but knowing that she would not be able to relax until she changed clothes, she started up the stairs. The stairs curled up the wall to the 2nd floor hall. There was a 3rd floor attic as well, accessible from the far end of the hall. She had never set foot in there in the 2 years she had lived here, though. The Kuonji mansion was more or less divided into 2 wings east and west. Aoko had been given the entire east wing, but 2 rooms were more than enough as far as she was concerned. She had no desire to open a door that would trap you in a storybook world or lead you to an attic that had only been used for storage these last 5 years. Aoko's room was at the end of the east wing's long corridor. She had elected for a smaller room for no other reason other than that she thought it would be easier to clean. It was furnished with a large bed, her beloved mahogany desk, a wardrobe and chest for her clothes, and 2 9-shelf bookcases. That is all she brought with her from home. Her entire life of 16 years reduced to this. She borrowed the next room down for her own purposes.
そうだ。アリスにもらった見張りと壊れてないかチェックしないと。
You're gonna talk. She needed to see if the project she had been working on all night had borne fruit. The study next door served as proof of the life she had been living for the last year, and how different that life was from the one she had lived before. It was not a room for the person she had been. It was a room for the person she would eventually become. A place of solitude that only she could enter, so she thought.
えてるどころか跡形もなく消え去ってる。やっぱ自己流アレンジはまだ早かったか。いいわよ、笑いなさいよ、コマドリ。
The nosy neighbor that had intruded upon her sanctuary flew away. It's a real Robin! While not exceptionally talented, Aoko did not lack for effort and was not afraid to fail. One could have almost mistaken her approach for optimism. This really is full-on novel. She changed out of her uniform and returned to the first floor. I really want that Tsukihime remake. Down the stairs, she opened the door to the east wing into the corridor as dark as a cellar. The absence of windows meant it was pitch black without the lights on, so she flicked the switch and entered the nearby doorway.
電気のない生活か。想像したくないな。
It had been her idea to update the drawing room. The walls were decorated with extravagant patterns, and around the room were large, majestic sofas and a luxurious Persian rug. Some man's hat indeed. Amidst it all was a 30-inch television that seemed completely out of place. It stood looking over the other furniture like the emperor with no clothes. It was some asshat with a green name. The mansion's owner would have rather done without it, but to a commoner like Aoko, it was an essential commodity. They had fought over its presence at first, but eventually came to an agreement, and now mutually enjoyed it, this modern comfort.
なんだ、人のことは言えないか。うちも案外時代錯誤な家だった。
Now in a somewhat pleasant mood, she decided to brew some tea. She boiled some water in the kitchen, prepared a teapot, and made herself some black tea. With a plop, she sank into the sofa. She took a sip of her tea, then another. She's like, I wish I had more screen time in Carnival Phantasm. At least I got to knee Shiki in the face. Lulled by the ticking of the clock, she took a third sip as she pondered how to spend her afternoon. The sofa almost seemed to be inviting her, and she sunk even further into its comforting embrace. Ako blearily opened her eyes as she lifted her body up from the cushions. This was no dream or delusion. Who is this? At some point, a girl had sat down across from her. Not the least bit surprised, she reached for her teacup, but the tea within had gone completely cold. She asked a question to the girl on the other side of the table. The girl answered without lifting her gaze. When silent, she could have been mistaken for a beautiful doll. The girl sitting on the opposite sofa was reading an old book. She had delicate limbs and pale white skin. Not a hint of humanity emanated from her melancholic aura. She had darker hair than Aoko. Her icy eyes were focused on the pages in front of her. Her clothes resembled that of a nun, but were actually her school uniform. In Aoko's humble opinion, the gloominess suited her. She evoked something like out of a painting. There was something unreal about her, as if she were frozen in time. The white of her neck was so lovely that even Aoko found herself enchanted by it. The girl was one of the haunted house's 2 residents. Her name was Alice Kuonji, and she was the same age as Aoko.
私どれくらい寝てた？1時間と少し。ここで眠ると風邪ひくわよ。
Alice answered indifferently. Not that it bothered Aoko, was now used to it. She looked at the clock on the wall and saw that it was already 7. She had been asleep for 2 hours. The day had been a rough one for her, and she had slept little the night before, so it was no surprise that she had dozed off as long as she had.
起こしてくれてもよかったのに。せっかくの紅茶が冷めちゃったじゃない。私が来た時はもう冷めてたわ。でしょうね。行ってみただけよ。
Aoko drank down the rest of the cold tea in one gulp. In the poorly heated Kuonji mansion, that was more than enough to clear her head and wake up.
こうなると、フォートナム&メイソンも何もないわね。おかえり、アリス。玉の贅沢もあんた抜きじゃ閉まらないってことかしら。今日は薬日か天中殺か。ちょっと早いけど、お参りってのも十分ありかもね。
We jump? Okay. I can remove text. I can I can save, but I don't know how to load. Okay. Aha, square. We can individually set volume for characters. Interesting. Can mute Aoko and do her lines. Yeah, but then the other people will speak and she won't. That makes her a mute protagonist, which is even worse. It's worse than everything else. Aoko shrugged her shoulders as if resigning herself to her fate.
それで何があったの？
After 2 years together, they knew each other quite well. Aoko had one way of asking questions, and Alice had another. Alice asked without raising her head, and Aoko gave her the details.
まず謝らなくちゃいけない。
Is that a foot? That's a very weird ass foot.
昨日徹夜で完成させた例のあれ、意味がなくなっちゃったのよ。ちょっと目を離した隙に沸騰しすぎて壊れちゃったみたい。そうならないよう循環のコードを 2,3 本外したり縫合したりしたんだけど。
Those are socks, David. Don't be weird. Yes, but they have a weird shape. Aoko tried to laugh it off as if it was someone else's problem.
どういうこと？今朝休養が入って学校に呼び出し受けたの。そこで転入生の世話を押し付けられて一日が無残にも消費されちゃって、帰ってきたら跡形もなく消えてました。怒る？アリス。
別に青子の器物破損にいちいち怒っていたら一生分の口論をすることになるでしょ
う。
代用品はあるからまた一から始めればいいわ。それより怒ってるのはあなたの方じゃないの
Alice was very much on point today. It was true that, despite outward appearances, Aoko was seething frustration. That aside,
この転入生っていうのがひどくずれててね。すごい山奥で暮らしてたらしくて、こっちの常識が通じないんだから。三問以下って言葉があるけど、あれって本当のことなのね、アリス。
Alice raised her head in response to hearing her name. But Aoko kept going on before she could get a word in edgewise. Aoko, after all, expecting no sympathy in the first place.
初対面から尺に触るやつだったけど、教室を案内した時なんか失神しそうになったわ。そいつ、教室で教師と1対1で授業を受けるもんだと思ってたらしいの。それはそれでまだ流せる。許容範囲よ、あの程度の冗談は。で、私が簡潔かつ丁寧に教室の何たるかを教えた後で、そいつなんて言ったと思う？それで青崎、他の教室は何に使うんだですって。教室に他も何もないでしょ。なんていうか、そいつは少しでも説明を怠るとそのままで納得しちゃうのよ。何も疑問に思わないというか、想像力が欠如してるっていうか、想像することに慣れてないっていうか。まあ、一度言ったことはちゃんと分かってるっぽいからバカってわけじゃないんだけど。
あなたが人を批評するのは珍しいわね。そういうダメな人気にするたちだったの？
みじんたりとも気にしないわよ。けど明日からどんな間違いをしでかすのかちょっと心配なだけ。
What she was really worried about was having to clean up that mess, if when it happened. That had to be it. If not, it would mean she had no real idea why she could not get him out of his head. Her head.
とにかく変なやつなの。案外アリスと気が合うかも。
三問異界はいい言葉ね。
From her eyes, it was clear that the question of whether they would get along was irrelevant, given that they would never meet in the first place. 2022, people can be fluid. Exactly. Aoko gave a non-committal response. Definitely not a
さっきか
typo.
ら何読んでるの？
霊的進化論の二次創作、スピリチュアルダイアリのまがいもの。
Damn, I hate seeing typos, especially in games I'm hyped about.
ああ、スウェーデンボリー。そんなの今更読んでも仕方ないんじゃない？
新書なら退屈だけど、これは偽書だから。
It's a knockoff book.
彼の欠点と長所を劇的に褒め上げている。よくできた冒険小説のようよ。立ちはだかる秘密組織の名前がカントとか気が利いているわ。筆跡はあなたのおじいさんのものだけど。
You're hyped about this? Yeah.
へえ、あの人そういう趣味まであったんだ。割とユーモアがあったのね。
I'm not playing it for for a meme or a sponsor or whatever. That's something I really want. Aoko seemed nostalgic over her now deceased grandfather. Yeah, I don't know if trophies are even out, or I guess not, because this is demo, but the game is not out, right?
あなたのおじいさん、夏に頼りをくれたけど。
It is out? Oh shit. You have it? Fuck.
よしてよ、死んだものと考えたいのに。
Aoko sighed, leaned back on the sofa. The soft cushions caved in under her weight.
話は戻るけど。
Alice shot a glance at Aoko. Her body buried in the sofa remained as still as a corpse. It was clear Aoko had tuned out of the conversation. Set in 1980s Japan, Witch on the Holy Night tells the story of fan-favorite Type Moon character, Aozaki Aoko. She attempts to navigate the complex world of Mazecraft, also dealing with everyday struggles of life as a high school student. So like an anime. Hey, I wrote that. No. If you don't trust me, at least trust Melty. Alice silently chastised her with a look. The more she thought about it, the less important the events of the day seemed to become. She just ignored Alice. The conversation would end there. Of course you will. They would eventually get up and leave today's mistake and resolve for another day. However, that's not the kind of person Ozaki Aoko was.
いいわよ。何？
That's not true. She asked, still lying down.
今日できなかったのは少し痛いわね。
だから反省してるって。学校優先は一人前になってからでしょ。
ならいいけど。
The coldness in her voice made Aoko gnash her teeth. She knew what Alice wanted to say. She knew better than anyone. The veneer she wore for school was different than the way she lived at home. While it could be called hiding in plain sight, Alice thought it was silly. And what the silence told her was...
覚悟を決めろって言いたいのよね、あんたは。
Today's failure was not a colossal one. She just happened to upset the delicate balance between her home and school lives, chasing one at the expense of the other. And yet that careless mistake was a clear sign of Aoko's lack of commitment.
アリスは関係ない。これは私が私で決めなくちゃいけないこと。
I thought it would be about the two sisters. She had only known for sure for the last year in the house, but she'd had a hunch for as long as she could remember. Make the choice and the day will come. It was little wonder that her morals and conscience had been stripped away. Aoko pushed herself back up. She was met by Alice's cold beauty and wordless gaze.
オッケー、アリス。来週中に決着をつけよう。それでいいんでしょ？
ええ、青子がいいなら。
Aoko could not help but shake her head, feeling like she was hearing something similar for the second time that day. Even in the comfort of her own, she couldn't banish thoughts of that country boy from her mind.
じゃあ、下準備はよろしくね。私まだできないし。
場所は例の公園でいい？
妥当な線ね。あ、でももう一軒の方は？そっちの方が急務じゃない？
時と場合、森に変化があれば教えるわ。
After that brief exchange, Alice returned her attention to the book on her lap. Shop talk was over. Now they could return to their normal relationship as roommates. Alco grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. Since Alice was busy reading, Alco decided to tune into a variety show that had already started. Alice started to speak but suddenly cut herself off. One of her delicate hands raced to her mouth. She would always cut herself on the second she realized she was about to say something trivial. Sometimes her self-restraint would hit too late, and she would make a gesture like the one she was making now. It occurred to Alco that the sound her cute little roommate made just now was different than the what she blurted in times past.
何？
Alco turned down the volume on the TV. Her intense eyes lit up like those of a mischievous cat.
どうということはないんだけど。
ないんだけど？
Alice looked away bashfully, not knowing if she would bring it up or not. I love that. It was times like these that her expression carried a real warmth and surprising charm. If you could see her in this moment, Alice's father would have to admit that her name suited her perfectly.
今日帰ってくるときおかしなものを見て誰かに話そうと思っていたんだけど。
Alco nodded, beckoning her to continue.
つまらない、本当に意味のないことよ。けど、どう考えてもそんなことをする理由がわからない。青子、人間ぐらいの大きな猫がひょこひょこ出前をする理由ってわかる？
What the fuck? Oh, it's probably someone in a costume. No, it's just one of those mascot things from restaurants. She probably didn't get it. For a second, Alco thought Alice was trying and failing miserably to make a joke again. One would think that about anyone, really. But she seemed completely serious. Even if Alice's sense of humor fell flat for Alco, the story already sounded more fanciful than Alice's usual attempt at jokes. Alco concluded that their roommate was talking about something she had actually seen.
その話には2つぐらい信じがたい部分があるけど、1つずつ論破していい？
いいの。私もからくりぐらいは思いつくから。ただ、理由がわからないから聞いてるの。わざわざ精巧な猫のぬいぐるみを着て、出前のてんやものを届けに行くことって、そんなに簡単かしらね。
難易度以前にそれをやる人間の常識性を疑うけどね、私は。
Yes, just a costume. Alice nodded tentatively at her words.
まあ、世の中いろいろあるから。私たちみたいなのもいれば、下界から遮断された山奥で暮らしていたやつまで10人といるよ。
The origins of furries? That's Sonic. Obviously.
私だったら見かけたら声かけて理由を尋ねただろうけど。
Alice's gaze drifted at that.
暮れゆく住宅街にさまよう出前猫か。 背景が夕焼けだったらファンタジーだったでしょうに。
Sounds like Persona.
で、今日の夕飯どうする？せっかく話が出たし、私らもてんやものにしようか。
Damn. Can someone ban Kanye from chat, please? Uncle loved getting takeout, and her face glowed as she spoke. They had no hard rules for dinner, but if one of them was in the mood to cook, they made a point to make enough for two. At the very worst, this meant entire weeks without dinner, but the two of them agreed that this was the system that worked best for them. Huh? Whether they found cooking to be too much effort or simply liked ordering out, nights like this one were a common occurrence, much to the chagrin of the restaurants of Misaki Town. Delivering to the mansion meant coming all the way up to the top of this hill, the source of their disgruntlement.
時間は8時前。ギリギリセーフね。私今月がいいな。あそこの月見そば最近ご無沙汰だったし。
The hungry student council president took out, I guess, their many menus and excitedly looked for anything that stood out. They really should have hired me to review the text. Alice casually responded without sparing so much as a glance.
悪いけど、私夕飯済んでるの。
There you. Those words, Aoko froze. All deliveries required a minimum of 2 items, so she was out of luck without an accomplice. Cruel Society had decided it couldn't be bothered to deliver to a princess who only ordered a single serving of food. Ah, that's really far away, yeah. Incidentally, to counteract orders from the Hilltop Mansion, the restaurants had declared minimum number of orders will be 3 starting next year. Aoko and Alice were still in the dark to this fiendish change in direction.
この裏切り者。だから帰ってくるのが遅かったのね。帰宅部、学校までバス徒歩込みで片道20分のあんたがなんで5時以降に帰ってくんのか考えるべきだったわ。
Unfortunately for Aoko, she had been too out of it to even remember that she was the one who had fallen asleep.
ああ、ひどい女。そういう時は残された一人のためにお土産買ってくるのが暗黙の了解だったのに。私だってこの前の外食の時はアリスの分も買ってきたじゃない。
It was unknown how serious Aoko was being, but she was visibly angry. She had already woken up hungry that morning, and from the time she was called into school until now, she had consumed nothing but tea. It was a small miracle that her stomach was not growling. She knew it was her own fault, but she persisted, wanting to get revenge on Alice for scolding her earlier.
この前ってあれのこと？あなたが都心に出向いた時、夕食にお寿司を食べてきたのに、お土産はなぜかコンビニエンスストアのビニール袋だったって話？
Better than nothing. Aoko had kicked the hornet's nest.
何よ、買ってこないよりはマシでしょ。
真実は時に隠蔽すべきね。
Alice's icy gaze pierced right through her. Aoko had certainly crossed a line by going on and on about how the sushi circled around the restaurant while Alice ate her convenience store meal. The new things fascinated her, and she couldn't contain her curiosity towards the conveyor belt sushi shops that started popping up at the time. They were nothing short of miraculous. Even honesty can be a sin given the right circumstances.
わかった。わかりました。じゃあ今回のは前のと帳消しってことでいいわね。
Alice went back to her book without so much as recognizing the question. fact that she did not confirm it made Aoko anxious.
仕方ない。今日は薬日だし、おとなしく台所に立って料理の腕を磨くとしましょう。
She stood up, announcing her intent to no one in particular.
あ、聞き忘れてた。アリス、どこで夕食済ませたの？
Alice's hand froze on her current page. She suddenly shut the book she was reading and stood up as if at wit's end. She walked across the drawing room with her book in hand. When she reached the door, she stopped and turned toward Aoko.
聞きたい。
まあ、なんとなく。
Aoko nodded timidly, cowed by Alice's sudden figure. Alice continued in a matter-of-fact way.
その猫が余ったメニューをくれたのよ。
With that brief response, she left the room. Walking around the mansion at night often led to mysterious encounters. Mist might suddenly fill the hallway, or doors might appear and disappear. Just when Sojiro thought he had seen it all with pig-shaped shadows mending the carpet, he heard the sound of a bird's flapping coming from the sunroom.
何事？
As much as he had become accustomed to turning a blind eye to such occurrences, the sound of clapping wings in the sunroom was too much to ignore. And not just one bird, or even two, it sounded like dozens. So many birds packed in the sunroom would inevitably lead to shattered windows and broken glass. Sojiro grabbed a broom and dashed towards the sound, prepared for the worst. Perhaps he was moved by his natural impulse to help, desperate self-defense. His mind flashed to what a teacher had said at school.
皆さんも部屋の整頓は心がけてくださいね。人間の自制心って環境に流されるらしいですから。ほら、それまで犯罪の少ない町だったのに、一つボロボロの家ができただけで、近隣住人がみんな自堕落になるというあれ。
That's a Japanese thing to say.
環境への無関心さがすさんだ精神を作り上げるとか眉唾ですけど、正直なところブームだからって盗んだバイクで走り回ったり、学校の廊下の窓ガラスとか割って回っちゃダメですよ。先生の仕事が増えますから。
At the time, school gangs had garnered a certain reputation among the youths.
窓が割れると心が荒れる。
Sojiro appreciated the basic message of the lecture as he ruminated over it. The thought of broken windows had given him a sense of urgency, as if the mansion's very moral foundations were at stake. His roommates were harsh enough with him already. Anything further would only lead to rampant rumors at school about their cruelty. He had to protect the honor of the student council president, who was also concerned for his own safety that sent him rushing to the sunroom. However, there wasn't a bird to be seen or a chirp to be heard upon his arrival.
あら。
Only Alice and Naoko, sipping afternoon tea at the table that overlooked the courtyard, were present. The dozens of birds Sojiro had sensed with his mountain intuition were nowhere to be seen.
今ここに鳥が来なかった？
Why is his neck bandaged?
アリス、見た？
さあ、もう見えないのならいないということでしょう。
だって、いないよ、鳥。
was a lie so blatant even Sojiro could see through it.
そんなバカな。
He knew for a fact he had heard the flapping of a flock of birds. Unable to accept that there really were no wild animals in the room, Sojiro approached the windows with suspicion. There were no feathers or any other signs of birds having been outside either.
夕食鳥鍋
Of course, Aoko would say something like that as she watched Sojiro search desperately.
あいにく今日のバイトは魚屋さんだ。イワシでよければ土産にするけど。
イワシか。私あのパイ嫌いなのよね。いえ、むしろイワシのパイとか食べたことないのよね。
Aoko's stand-up routine was far ahead of its time. Went right over my head. Sojiro backed away from the window and begrudgingly left the sunroom. Feeling Alice's all too familiar inscrutable gaze upon his back.
なんだいアリ。
Just as he opened his mouth to ask her what she wanted,
あいった。
a blue comet crashed into his head. It needed no explanation. It could only be Robin, the mysterious bird that appeared frequently in the mansion. Chirp, 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 it shrilled accusingly. The truth was, the tiny aggressor that had assaulted him just now was the greatest of the mansion's 7 wonders. Wonder how long this demo is. Sojiro encountered all sorts of people along his route to work. Still new to city life, he found the crowds of people outside the station utterly fascinating. In fact, they were the highlight of his commute. No two people wore exactly the same clothes or walked the same fashion. With so many people, you would think they would all melt into an indistinguishable huddle, but each person he saw was different and unique. Sojiro was excited as a child as he looked out at the bustling, diverse streets of the city.
いや。
Closing his eyes in shame, he sighed. I hate saying that word. He was upset with himself for behaving like a bumbling tourist from the countryside.
ちょっと青信号で突っ立ってられるの邪魔なんだけど。何柄にもなく黄昏てるんだか。
A stern and familiar voice behind him snapped him out of his navel gazing.
なんだ、マッドベアに行く途中だったんだ。
This?
私はコンビニのバイト。こっちは5時からだけど。しずきは？
同じく5時から。くまりはどこか寄るところでも？
本屋に寄った帰り、読みたかった本がなくなってたから仕方なく出歩いてたところよ。
なるほど。時間を持て余しているところも同じだね。
The girl who greeted him was Ochika Kumari, a work friend who was also in the same year at Mizaki High. Though it would have been more accurate to say she was looking for a pretext to fight him rather than greet him. To Sojiro, Kumari had been the first person in the city he could look up to. He'd met at his first job, where she insisted he wasn't cut out to work the register after many mistakes and convinced him to quit working at the convenience stores altogether. In the end, she introduced him to his current job at the Chinese restaurant, the Mad Bear, a much better fit for Sojiro.
何そ なんか元気ない。いつも以上にイラッとくるわ。しずきのいいところなんていつもピシッとしてる背筋ぐらいなのにみっともなく丸まってるし。もしかして悩みとかあるの？マッドベアにタチの悪い先輩でもいるとか。それなら話ぐらいは聞いてあげるから。
Her tone was stern, her eyes were earnest. Having grown up in the city herself, she was irritated by virtually everything Sojiro said and did. Nevertheless, she still treated him like an equal. Introducing him to his current job was just one example of her sincerity.
いや、別に悩みとかそういうんじゃなくて、不思議なことがあったというか、珍しいものを見たというか。
Sojiro could not find the words to explain his situation, but that did not stop him from trying. There were no problems at the Mad Bear to speak of. He liked it just as much as his other job at Watatsu, the fishmongers in the shopping district. In fact, his problem had nothing to do with work at all. No, his problem was a certain blue bird that would not stop pecking at him recently.
鳥につっつかれる？何それ、小さい悩み。でもまあ、青い鳥っていうのは確かに珍しいよね。
いや、珍しいのは外見の話じゃなくて。
He stopped, unsure of how to proceed. Words alone were not enough to convey the bird's plump body, or the sounds of its chirping. That's such a fucking weird thing. It's like his problem is the bird attacks him.
青いツバメだったらいるかもしれないけど。
いや、ツバメじゃなくて丸っこいんだ。図鑑で調べたんだけど、どうもコマドリっぽいけど。
青色のコマドリは存在しない。しずきは縁日の青ひよこって知ってる？知らないわよね。いい、そう面白い話じゃないから忘れて。それよりそのコマドリって1話だけなの？
ああ、1話だけだ。つがいは見当たらない。
突然変異だとしたらちょっとかわいそうね。
I can't yet. I also feel like, well, I don't feel like it. It's clearly a bunch of disjointed chapters, not following the main plot line.
生まれた時から最後の1話だなんて孤独にも程があるわ。
Just kind of a weird thing to do, I
どん
guess.
な鳥かは知らないけど、次に見かけたら優しくしてあげたら、自販機で10円を拾うぐらいの幸運は運んでくれるかもよ。
Is this full fluff or is there gonna be actual fate stuff? I mean, I haven't played it, have I? It's not Fate, though. It's in the Fate universe. Her words were perfectly kind, but he could hardly sympathize with the creature after all the painful pecking to which he had subjected him. Yeah, it's more about mages than whatever else. You wouldn't have called the bird lonely either.
いいじゃない、小鳥1羽ぐらい。そりゃ都会で鳥につつかれるのは珍しいけど、いい方の珍事よ、それ。これがゴミ袋を漁るカラスの大群だったら困りものでしょうけど。
あ、そういえば他にも気になることが。
For example, it reminded him of the mystery of the disappearing birds at the mansion. A stranger than strange event.
実は今あそこに見える丘に住んでるんだけど、出るんだ。大量のムクドリが頻繁に。そのくせ街に出ると見かけない。
当たり前でしょう。街じゃ鳥なんて見かけないし、あそこは山だから動物は多いんじゃない？それよりあなた、あの山に引っ越したの？前のアパートは引き払ったって聞いてたけど、学校まで通うの大変じゃない。なんだってあんな偏僻なところに。
ちょっとした成り行きだよ。それに通うのは大変じゃない。大変なのは中の話なんだ。
It took 30 minutes to reach town on foot. The 40 minutes to the nearest convenience store would be the real kicker for most people, but for Sojiro it was no inconvenience. The real problem was the dark forces beyond human understanding that lurked within the grounds.
すまない。それはクマリに話すことじゃなかった。それより今の話だ。街には鳥が少ないと言ったけど、どうして？
単に環境に適応できなかったのよ。何？鳥の話には随分と食いつくわね。しずき、動物好き？
どちらかというと好きな方だけど。
そう、私は嫌い。そんな私に鳥の話とかしてほしい。
Her statement could hardly be more self-contradictory. Minutes after telling him to be nice to a bird that attacked him, she was now claiming she did not even like animals.
そうだな。嫌いなだけで苦手でないのなら、知ってる範囲で聞かせてほしい。
痛いとこつくじゃない。いいわ、バイトまでの時間つぶしにしてあげる。さっきの続き、環境に適応できるかできないかってところからね。
I don't know. The only thing I know about this main character is that she had a bag with a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. They call out their attacks. The morning sun alerted Sojiro that a day of work lay ahead. Specifically, the gardens needed tending to. And that unkempt garden made for an unhappy Sojiro. Luckily, today was a day off from all his part-time jobs. It was the perfect opportunity to get his hands dirty. Even the glasses she gives Shiki are from her sister, right? So we don't really know what she does. Yeah, they do. They didn't want to make them call out their attacks every single time, I guess. There was one problem, however. The mansion's grounds were vast. Not only had the courtyard been left to run wild, but the area around the front door had been neglected too. To tend to these problems thoroughly, he would have to work on them week in, week out.
よし。まずは地ならしだな。
In an ideal world, this task would only take a day. But for its enormity, for the moment, Sojiro decided to set foot in the mansion's wilderness and evict the weeds. Wasting none of the early light, he started tackling the ones around the mansion. By his estimation, he could clear the forecourt, courtyard, and backyard, then take a small rest. It was just before noon in the sunroom. Alice had come down, book in hand, to find Aoko sitting down with a fashion magazine and elegantly sipping tea. Through the window, she could see the crouched figure of Sojiro shuffling by.
朝からやってるみたいよ。起きてカーテンを開けたら、もうあの格好でスパスパやってたから。ついでに焼却炉の掃除も言いつけといたけど、いいでしょ？
Why do they have an incinerator?
いいけど頑張るのね彼。外はあんなにも寒いのに。
Alice quietly sat down. Her teacup had been placed on the table for her. She poured herself some tea and proceeded to open her book. The two sat passing the time in silence. Having happened to have the same idea, a nice relaxing cup of tea in the sunroom, their evening roles decided there was no need for idle chatter. Aoko stared out the window, intermittently turning her gaze to her magazine. Alice was immersed in a book on rune magecraft, occasionally tilting her head up as if to recall something. As if by unspoken agreement, in unison, they pressed their teacups to their lips and glanced outside. To the two girls, Sojiro appeared as if he were an animal in a zoo. Neither was interested in lending a hand. Despite his sluggish movement, he was making good progress. As Aoko's attention turned back to the sunroom, her eyes met Alice's. Alice returned her gaze to her book. Though moments later she raised her head again. She's cute. Clearing her throat, she attempted to focus on reading. It was no surprise that Alice admired Sojiro's diligence. VN technology sure has improved. Yes. Not even 30 minutes had passed before he had cleared the courtyard of its unsightly weeds. They definitely have a lot of charisma in the facial expressions. I like that. Not stopping once, the mysterious gardener left the courtyard, puffing clouds of white breath. The area left behind was spotless.
プロかしらね、あいつ。
Alice muttered after scanning over his work. The stalwart Sojiro worked confidently and ceaselessly. She was impressed, like she was watching a scene from a great movie. But before long, she grew irked. Why would he waste his energy like that, she thought. Alice looked at the clock.
焼却炉。今から手入れをしたら夕方ね。
そっちはもう終わってるわ。朝、上から見てたもの。壊されちゃいけないからあれこれ指示出してね。いやー、窓開けて散々怒鳴ったから、部屋が冷えること冷えること。
It was safe to assume Aoko had come to the sunroom to escape her cold room. Between barking orders from a window and cleaning in the cold, it was clear who had the harder job.
しずきくん、何か言ってこなかった？
言ってたけど、よく聞こえなかったわ。
In other words, his complaints fell on deaf ears. As they should. Work. However, you should be wary, young lady, for this is not a story of just warmth and cheer. From here we cross into the realm of night, bordering in fact and fiction. So let us now speak of the witch and her day. I've been waiting for the non-slice of life shit. I mean, I don't want to play a VN demo for ages. I want to get a slice of it.
はようございます。
Actual purpose is always a good place to go in a VN. I understand you want to show me that there's a slice of life. That's fine, but
午前0時を確認しました。
I want to know more.
前回更新より24時間経過。バックアップ開始。周囲の地形をスキャンします。大気成分、窒素異常なし、酸素異常なし、アルゴン異常なし、二酸化炭素異常なし。第5仮説要素、異常、異常、異常あり。周囲の時空連続体に相互確認。第一種危険物との遭遇と断定。視覚領域を主観から客観に変更。自律回路を予備電源に。計測回路を主電源に変更。カメラを赤外線計測から虚数線計測に変更。では、これより戦闘行為の記述を開始します。主よ、どうか我が身を守りたまえ。
The fuck? Mizaki City was a thickly wooded area. Urban development continued unabated, but Mother Nature still drew breath in its outskirts. Wise old trees had been turned to lumber. The leaves had begun to turn to mulch. Even though the birds who curiously tilted their heads had moved on, the verdure lived on, a testament to its enduring strength. Until the time came that the devouring light of civilization became powerful enough to encroach upon nature's mysterious domain. These woods were no exception. The outlying border between Mizaki City and Mizaki Hills had been left untouched. Though driven from their nests and dens here, wildlife continued to subsist even today. No longer able to return to the days before man, this was just like any other forest situated next to a town. Winter had arrived in the woods. The chill cut like a razor, the icy air so thick it could reach one's bones. Exposed cheeks stiffened and wisps of breath formed in swirls in the air before disappearing. It was 1 degree above freezing. The cold snap penetrated every nook and cranny of the woods, from the ground to the trees to the wildlife. Not too much noise, heater, please. The forest allowed nobody entry during the day. During the winter, it willed the animals to slumber. The still evening air felt like the stagnant breath of the lingering dead. The forest consumed the moonlight, obscuring the sight of even the closest of precipices, and hastening the untimely doom of any soul unfortunate enough to become lost within. The only noises to be heard were the whisperings of the wind and the murmurings of the stream. But the immortal darkness stifled any sense of life. Not the breath of an animal, much less that of a person, was drawn in this place. However, the figure in black, not of this place, skulked within. It cast the tiniest, frailest of silhouettes, like a small boat lost in a sea of fog. Its trepidatious footsteps echoed through the woods. There, exiting the veil of trees, was the unmistakable likeness of a young girl.
どっちが食べる？
どっちも食
君は左手。
べる。お前は右手。
歓迎しないと。
感激しないと。
何しろようやく楽しいお客。ついでにお腹と頸骨も。
せっかくだからよく噛まないと。
The shadows in the trees laughed ominously. An hallucination, an illusion, or perhaps something real. The shadows frolicked in time the girl's pace.
さあさあさあさあ。
もっと奥へ、もっと奥へ。
ところでダイスは細工済み？
お腹の重いローデット。
端っこかじったエッジワーク。
It's a Boogie Pop Phantom.
どうでもいいけど肝心要の6の目だけは出さないように。
That's just Alice. The girl knitted her eyebrows. She heard voices and felt the presence of things that should not be. Scary enough to frighten this particular girl? As if. Her tightly pursed lips betrayed not a hint of fear. The girl walked of her own volition. If she had truly felt fear, her legs would be frozen. Deep within the trees, she was perfectly aware of the two humanoid figures stalking her through the still night air.
見たぞ見たぞ。
来るぞ来るぞ。
もう諦めろ。
もう帰れない。
あんなに教えてあげたのに。
よそに消えないお前が悪い。
The girl halted their steps. The racket from the accompanying voices died and turned. The babbling brook suddenly sounded like a crackling fire. And then, across the shallow stream, something appeared that should not exist in the city, much less in these woods.
こんばんは。話のわかる人はいる？
The girl addressed them calmly. These men with their Glasgow grins creeped toward her like two slugs.
そう。ただの墓守り。監視だけが仕事なのね。失敗したわ。これなら青子に任せればよかった。ああ。
The one grinning man stood still. The other, shaking violently as if unable to contain himself any longer, turned toward the girl.
青子にはまだ荷が重いわね。そんな姿だけど、あなたたちは一人前の魔術師のようだし。
Her black outfit stirred. In her right hand she held a vitreous cat darker than the deepest night. The two Glasgow men let out a yelp of caution and incoherent fear. It was at this moment that they finally bared their intent and emotion. It was at this moment that they knew they fucked up.
さようなら、お客様。きっと一瞬だろうから、お別れだけ言っておくわ。
The two shuddered at their words. They had no mouths, nor ears, or brains to begin with. For creatures like these, words were redundant. All that existed was the present. For these soulless creatures, fears and hopes were nothing more than an unimaginable future. And what could be this feeling of foreboding they felt? The spine-chilling miracle that would rip them to pieces not moments from now.
さあ、ごっこ遊びをしましょう。お人形さん。
Her song sounded like a bell echoing through the white woods. The girl's voice vanquished the frost that had gripped the trace. Then,
いやいや、ずいぶん待たされた。さあ、赤ずきんの登場だ。
the curtains open on Diddle Diddle, the banquet of the night. In confusion, one slit-mouthed man swooped toward the girl. In fear, the other fled into the woods behind them. The deformed humanoid darted forth, kicking up water as it rushed the girl. She already knew what this fiend was. The grinning figure had scissors for hands and the demon's heart. It was the wretch who kidnapped children, mercilessly rendering them into pieces.
トゥイードル。
お任せお任せ。ようやく出番だ。あらよった。
The piglets bounded and rebounded like paddle balls. The stuffed animals over 3 feet in length jumped and weaved their way between the trees. Even with these strange creatures before him, the grinning man did not so much as blink. He raised his arms, but what emerged from his coat sleeves were not the human appendages you would expect. In their place, fiendish cleavers more than 1.5 feet in length. These appendages, which had torn so much of their prey in pieces, sliced cleanly through the flying pig's skulls. His limbs froze in place. Pigs' bodies were sliced perfectly in half. And then, bisected from head to tail, the pig's innards became as alligator jaws and clamped down upon the grinning man's arms. From fingertips to shoulders, they were swallowed whole. It was all it took to rob the man of control over his entire body. Another shiver of fear. These were no mere pig familiars. Immediately he realized that these were stapler monsters disguised as mere pigs.
捕まえたのはダムでした。捕まえたのは D だってば。ああ、でも残念。ご主人様は無口で無情で無パンチ。結局、どっちの手柄も同じこと。
London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down.
I'm familiar with the song. Impossible! Its presence murmured 3 times. Not possible! Not possible! Not possible? Talking pigs were one thing. Even having one's arms chopped off was in the realm of occupational hazard. I do remember that. In an instant, the wood was enveloped in a dense wave of magical energy. Though vexing, it was still impressive. None of these facts were particularly extraordinary. These rare familiars, their bizarre attack, the sheer innate magical energy to overwhelm others. He had experience with all these things. His employer was skilled enough to achieve all of this as well. However,
どうするどうする。いつまで放置？
probably not.
手足一本、瞬きだって贅沢だ。お支払いは面倒でも、できればポンドでお願いします。
There's a kid that was going to fail English that actually turned that in as his English essay. As a meme. And there's like the teacher got a D+ or whatever. Teacher was like, Did you mean I'm the bane of my sword? I saw that the other day. That was hilarious. What were they? Not vessels, not living creatures, not beings powered by magic circuits. Even though only his arms had been bitten, none of his body would move. It was nothing like being bound or weakened. This felt more like he had become words written in a book, fated to keep their page. As the grinning figure's deformities indicated, he had overcome numerous curiosities and monstrosities. Illusions, enthrallment, compulsions, freezings, putrefactions, and even petrifications, a power granted to only the pinnacle of mystic eyes. From poisons to magecraft, he had weathered a great deal, but this was something different altogether. The penalty that bound him now was based on different principles from blood, flesh, oxygen, or hate. It was an unknown restraint that followed no rules he knew. Indeed, though it was terrifying to admit, it was as if it encountered something alien to everything in this world. Fangs sank into his left and right shoulders. For the first time in this form, he felt rage seethe up inside him. The basis of all things had to be absolute. All mystics, all things bizarre, obeyed some set of laws. But these pigs ignored this, along with his dignity.
さあ3日で衰弱6日で溺死半年経てば惨めな骸骨でもご無礼面倒だから今殺そうか
How? Though he had no voice, he let out an exasperated scream.
なんて便利自分の腕を外せる機構お前こそ三国一のものの不要
The talkative pigs fell into the stream. The exasperated scream was the sound of the figure tearing his arms from their sockets. Harmless, he rushed the girl.
役立たず。後でお仕置きが必要ね。
He may have lost his mangled arms, but not the object of his malice. A mystic eye to pierce the heart of its victim. A magic circuit designed to stop a beating heart. It was beautiful in its simplicity. At point-blank range, it was the equivalent of an unavoidable shotgun blast. Wait, does she have a mystic eye too? Ah, it did shine. But tragically, that eye was all he had.
Beauty up with wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay. Beauty up with wood and clay, my fair lady.
He failed to realize that her song had changed. For the giant, the earth-shattering strike was akin to the act of chewing away an insect. Its green, verdant veins pulsed. Oaken bark covered its body, hardened sufficiently over centuries to repel even a chainsaw. On its forehead, inscribed in all manner of colors, was the word Emmet, though judging from its misspelling, the inscription was purely decorative. The Thames Troll. It also went by the moniker Falling Down, or alternatively, the Great Bridge. Admired in different forms, it was the first of 4 miracles.
テムズ、もう一体の
The giant responded to the girl's words. With roots rent deep into the earth, it raised its left arm to the heavens without moving a step. The song is a summon sign, I guess? A summon? Elsewhere in the forest, a grinning figure who had chosen to flee the battle was running through the night forest at full speed. Record and provide detailed description of the enemy. Those were the orders assigned to him. He poured all of his energy into escaping this forest with which he had become so familiar. In case of emergency, the plan was for one to challenge the enemy while the other made a tactical retreat in order to report to their master. He dashed through the forest. Though gripped by fear, he was confident in his ability to perform the mission he was designed for. Nothing could catch him in these woods. Even the wolves could not track him. His bird-like legs stumped as they kicked the ground. Perhaps it was his creator's eccentric taste that indicated their form when optimizing them for running. The grinning man could reach a maximum speed of 45 miles per hour, well past the limit of any bipedal creature. After securing a distance of several miles, he turned around to confirm his safety. There was no sign of pursuit. His crescent-shaped mouth, nay, eye, slackened in relief. And then, after facing forward once more, he looked up to lock eyes with his doom.
London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down.
In the distance he could hear the dark rhymes of Mother Goose. Countless vines extended from the ground. They formed into a monstrosity that conjured up images of an arched bridge, something resembling a giant arm.
London Bridge is broken down, my fair lady.
最終報告。生還は困難。解析は困難。転送は困難。状況を終了します。はあ。主よ、どうかこの身を守り。
Interesting. Those are mechanical things?
済んだよね。お疲れ様。戻ってテムズ。次はもっと高価な場所ならいいのだけど。
The girl turned on her heel. The invaders who had set up shop in the woods were eliminated. She had no interest in whether they had been good or evil, nor how many victims they had claimed. The shackles of civic society held no sway over her. This was the way of a pure-blooded witch, the way of a mindster.
僕たちは？ねえ、僕たちは？この腕抜けないんだけど。噛んだままだと僕らも動けないっていうかさ。ひどい、飛べない豚に用はないと。次はお役に立ちます、きっと。生まれてこの方、失敗続きの僕らだけど。壊れるまでに一度くらいは褒められたいね。
The girl let out a sigh and stepped into the stream. She removed her gloves and dipped her slender fingers into the ice water.
6の目は出すなって言うけど、6の目しか出ないようになってるわよね、あなたたち。
There was no response to her melancholy tone. In place of the once boisterous pigs were two black dice now sitting in the palm of her hand. As the girl was about to say something to the scattered remains around her, she realized something that made her put a hand to her mouth.
お別れは済ませていたわね。目ぐらいは聞いておくべきだったかしら。
Her slender pale fingers traced their lips, as if reluctant to part from them. Sighing again, she calmly left the dark woods the same way she had entered. This fragmented telling of bygone days ends here. Now we must fix our lenses and return to the very beginning. Make yourself comfortable. We've kept you waiting long enough. Without further ado, Witch of the Holy Night. Arrogant, greedy, and able only to destroy, I must be a wolf. Then I have regrets. There's no looking back. My pride has left you behind, my sincere condolences. But at any rate, I suppose it's my fate to die at the hands of Little Red Riding Hood. Damn, this is a big demo. It's not over, yeah. Do I want to play more? I don't know if I want to play more. Yeah. It's a demo, not, must know how it ends. The demo? Don't worry, Thro. I'm sure you'll get to watch the full game. If you want. Probably not. The real question is, do you want to do this all again? Absolutely. Alright. Oh, I'm sorry. You'd rather me play Genshin? Don't be a dirty red, David. Honestly, no. Good. So, that was the demo. Not the full demo, but a good chunk of the demo for Witch of the Holy Night. I'm not gonna play more because I want to play the game. I got a taste of it. That's all I wanted. I'll be back tomorrow with The Devil in Me. So, I am done for today. Thank you all for watching and hanging out. And as always, supporting my choices to play whatever I like and want. I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye. Good night.